Welcome to the November Garden Calendar. In this episode, we will look at plants with colorful berries, spreading wood ashes around non-acid loving plants, and how to force bulbs to bloom indoors during the winter months. We will look at removing garden debris and fallen fruit. In our video segments, we will discuss step-by-step on how to read your soil test results and explain how fall leaves get their beautiful colors. And finally, we will talk about planting windbreaks, composting fallen leaves, and how to protect summer flowering tubers and bulbs. All this and more in the November Garden Calendar. There are not many plants in flower in the month of November. However, there are several plants with colorful berries. Some of those are the American beautyberry, the Chinese holly, Foster holly, Nellie Stevens holly, Nandina, Pyracantha, Washington hawthorn, dogwood, and several others. There are not a lot of things you can fertilize in the month of November. However, you can use wood ashes around the vegetable garden, bulb beds, and around non-acid loving plants if the soil pH is below 6.0. Forcing spring flowering bulbs indoors is a great way to have a taste of spring in your home during the winter. Several types of bulbs are available for forcing. Tulips, daffodils, hyacinths, paperwhites, and amaryllis are some of the most popular. Amaryllis and paperwhites are the easiest to force because they don't need a chilling period before they bloom. The others, tulips, daffodils, and hyacinths, need at least 13 weeks of moist chilling at 35 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit in order to bloom. Several bulbs may be kept in a container with a little moist soil in the refrigerator, but avoid putting them in the crisper drawers with ripening fruits and vegetables. The ripening process releases ethylene gas that may injure the bulbs. The bulbs will develop roots in the refrigerator, so keep the soil evenly moist. Plant the bulbs in a well-drained, sterile potting mix with a pH of about 6 to 7. Plastic or clay containers can be used as long as they have good drainage. Soak clay pots overnight before planting to keep the pots from drawing the moisture from the potting soil. Fill the bottom of the pot with soil so the top of the bulb will be even with the top of the pot. Put the flat side of the bulb next to the pot so the first sleeve to emerge will be on the outside. Finish filling the pot with soil to within a half an inch of the top and plant on blooms about 4 weeks after potting. If you pot some bulbs every 2 weeks, you can enjoy spring flowers all winter long. Now for your pruning chores in the month of November. It's time to trim your existing asparagus foliage. Cut it to the ground after the foliage is killed by frost. Also, remove all your old garden debris from the garden this month. Prune it back and remove it from the site. Also, cut back and clean up your frost-killed perennials. Also, when you're cutting holiday greenery, use sharp pruners to make cuts above a bud or a side branch. Also, it is time to remove your older canes on your blackberries and raspberries. So get out there and prune those back as well. Now for planting in the month of November. Trees and shrubs can be planted now. If you root pruned a tree back in October to move it, now is the time to do so. With the low evaporation rate and cooler temperatures, now is the time to move a tree. Also, if you're purchasing a tree from a nursery, look for those that have pretty fall colors to move. You can also plant your 1-year-old asparagus crowns in the vegetable garden this month. And if you have not finished planting your spring flowering bulbs, now is the time to do so. You got to get them out there to get your chilling hours so they will bloom next spring. Okay, now we're going to take a detailed look at soil testing. Soil testing is truly needed for one's home site to know how much fertilizer, lime, whatever, to apply to keep those plants healthy, whether it's the garden, fruit trees, whatever. So when you're looking to soil test, you go and look at your home and what does need testing. You may have a vegetable garden. You may have trees and shrubs. You may have a front yard and a backyard. All these areas probably need to be tested separately, especially if the backyard is at a different slope, possibly a little bit of different soil type than the front yard. So when you do soil test, first you would need to use clean sampling equipment. You can use a trowel, you can use a spade, or a soil test probe, which we have at the extension office that you can come, leave a deposit, and borrow the soil probe, then return it. You get your cores from your given area, so you're sampling the vegetable garden site. You would need to take 10 to 12 different cores at the depth that your plant is growing. So if you're sampling vegetable garden, your roots may be growing 6 to 8 inches. You would take a sample at that depth, all of your samples. Your lawn may just be 4 to 6 inches deep, your samples. Trees and shrubs may be an area where you might need to go 8 or 12 inches deep for those samples. But get 10 to 12 samples, mix them up in a bucket really well, and then you take your soil test box, which looks like this, and you would close it up and fill the soil up to the soil test line. So once you do that, you need to fill out a soil test form as well. And here is the soil test box and the soil test form. The form, of course, you need your name, address, all the appropriate information. The soil test box as well, your name and address. Then put a sample ID, such as abbreviate front yard or vegetable. Then come over to the sample sheet. There as well, you leave the lab number blank. Sample identification needs to be front yard, vegetable, whatever, to match up with your soil sample box. List your lime applied, if you have applied any to that site in the last 12 months. Then you would list the crop you are growing, if it's vegetable garden, if it's fescue lawn, whatever that might be. And the second crop, it's usually the same thing, but you may plan on changing. Then list a crop code. There is a crop code listed on the back. Vegetable garden is 024, lawn is 026. Different commodities have different codes. So list the codes, all that information. You can list several soil sample boxes on one sheet. Box that all up, put it in a big box. We do have a mailer box that holds 4. Mail it to the NCDA Agronomic Division Soil Testing Section to this address, and they will email you the results back. When you get the results back, it may be self-explanatory. If not, I am able to pull up the soil test results at my office, and they will look something like this. This is just one sample for a lawn. The soil test results came back at a pH of 5.0, which is acidic. And in this case, he would need to add lime, typically in the fall. You can see the optimum pH range is indicated on the form, 5.8 to 6.5 for fescue. His was below that, so he needs to raise it up into that optimal range. Why do we need to lime or get the pH at the correct level? Because the plants, whether it's vegetables, fescue, whatever, cannot take up the nutrients in the soil if the pH is not in the correct range. So getting your pH correct is very important. Then your soil test result also will show you where your phosphorus, potassium where it falls, if it's in the optimal range or not, or if it's low. And then it also makes a recommendation. It says a fertilizer blend recommendation, in this case, 10 pounds per 1,000 square foot of 10-10-10 fertilizer. As you notice, you don't see nitrogen here. Nitrogen leaches through the soil and is very unstable in the soil, so they make the recommendation of your nitrogen based on the plant needs in the spring. So fertilization is typically done in the spring, lime's typically applied in the fall to get the soil at the correct pH. The blends on the fertilizer bag, you see 10-10-10 or 5-10-5. The first number is nitrogen, the second is potassium, the second one is phosphorus, and the third one is potassium. NPK, that's the blend. But the soil analysis does give you a blend that's recommended for your situation and the plants you're growing. So there's a few tips on taking your soil sample and how to read a soil report. And like I said, it will be emailed back to you. If you have questions, you can always call the extension office. We can look at your report at our desk and talk you through what you need to do. Now a few tips for lawn care in the month of November. If you still have to get out there and mow that lawn to clean it up one last time or two before going into the winter, do so. Be sure to keep it at 3 to 4 inches in height. When you're finished, get out there and clean the deck of your mower before putting it up for the winter, and also be good to drain the gas. So prepare that mower for storage for the winter. Also, keep your tree leaves from collecting on your lawn. If you keep those leaves in a certain area, smothering that grass, you can kill your turf in areas very easily. And finally, if your soil tests come back acidic and it indicates a need for a higher pH, now is the time to apply a dolomitic lime to bring that pH back up in your lawn. Changes in the air, the miracle of fall colors. Every year at this time, we revel in the beauty of the trees, knowing well that it is only a fleeting pleasure. Before long, the leaves will flutter away from their summer home and become a part of the rich carpet that covers the forest floor. Many people believe Jack Frost is responsible for the color change that takes place in our trees each fall. But we now know that changes in leaf color are the result of chemical changes in the leaf that take place due to certain weather conditions. Leaves get their green color from a pigment called chlorophyll. This pigment, which is necessary for food production, is found in numerous cells throughout the leaf. Along with the green pigment, leaves also contain yellow or orange carotenoids. Most of the year, these yellowish colors are masked by the greater amount of green coloring, but in the fall, partly because of changes in the period of daylight and changes in temperature, the chlorophyll breaks down. The green color disappears and the yellowish colors become visible. The red pigment, anthocyanin, appears later in the growing season as a result of a combination of factors. Anthocyanin is produced from a high concentration of simple sugars in the leaf cells in warm sunny days followed by cool nights with temperatures between freezing and 45 degrees. Variations in leaf colors are due to the mixing of varying amounts of chlorophyll and other pigments in the leaf during the fall season. The most vivid colors appear after a warm, dry summer and early autumn rains that prevent early leaf fall. Long periods of wet weather in late fall produce a rather drab coloration. With these chemical changes come the formation of various pigments that vary from yellow to red to blue. Some of them give rise to the reddish and purplish fall colors of leaves of trees such as dogwoods and sumacs. Others give the sugar maple their brilliant orange or fiery red and yellow. The autumn foliage of some trees such as birch and hickory only show yellow colors. Many oaks and others are mostly brownish, while beech turns golden bronze. These colors are due to the mixing of varying amounts of the chlorophyll and other pigments in the leaf during the fall season. As the fall colors appear, other changes are taking place. At the base of the leaf stalk, where it is attached to the twig, a special layer of cells develop and gradually severs the tissues that support the leaf. At the same time, nature heals the break, also that after the leaf is finally blown off by the wind or has fallen from its own weight, the place where it grew on the twig is then marked by a leaf scar.
Through fallen leaves, nature has provided for a fertile forest floor. Fallen leaves contain relatively large amounts of valuable elements, particularly calcium and potassium, which were originally a part of the soil. Decomposition of the leaves enriches the top layers of the soil by returning part of the elements borrowed by the tree, and at the same time provides for more water-absorbing humus. North Carolina leads the parade for leaf lookers, and depending upon the season, the species of trees involved, and the relative proportion of the three pigments, just about every imaginable color combination may be seen. In North Carolina, fall colors begin in the upper elevations of our mountains at the end of September and beginning of October, and run through early November as they spread across the state to the coast.
Now for some additional tasks in November. Remember to water your evergreen trees and shrubs thoroughly before your winter sets in, particularly if weather conditions have been dry. Need to look and see if tree screens or windbreaks are needed around your home during the blustery months of winter. Continue filling in the compost bin with fallen leaves. Clean all of those garden tools up really well and oil them before storing for the winter. Remove fallen fruit, leaves, twigs, etc. from under fruit trees to prevent overwintering pests and diseases. And then if you're going to try to keep elephant ears, cannas, and gladiolus in the ground, which is best recommended to dig those up and store them in peat moss or dry shavings, but if you're not going to do that and want to try to save them, they recommend a heavy mulching of an additional 4 inches or so of mulch over those plants to try to prevent freezing in the wintertime.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed our garden calendar. If you have questions, call us at 632-4451 or visit us at our website at alexanderextension.com, where there's lots of helpful information and events, and you can also sign up for a monthly newsletter there. That's alexanderextension.com, or stop by and visit us at the Alexander County Service Center at 151 West Main Avenue. Hope to hear from you soon.